my name's Steve Horgan. I'm the umpiring director for USA Field Hockey and the rules interpreter for the NCAA. What we'd like to do today is present a mid-season briefing with issues that were brought to us associated with the first half of the season. I'd like to thank the assigners, umpires, and coaches who have brought these issues to us to help us emphasize different issues associated with the first half of the season and allow everyone to have a consistent and successful second half of the year. Our first topic today is going to be on green carding the goalkeeper. There seems to be some confusion as to the process and the ramifications of this green card. First and foremost, it must be noted that if the goalie gets a green card, that player must go off the field. There is no option of the goalkeeper staying on the field and removing a field player. That is not part of the rule and or the process. So the goalkeeper themselves must be the one to come out. So when the goalkeeper gets the green card, as if the same type of green card was given in midfield, the umpires are to stop the time briefly, issue the card, and this player off she or he goes. The umpire should restart the game immediately, basically leaving just field players. If the team who lost their goalkeeper chooses to substitute, just as all substitutions, they are managed as a separate event and must take place at the midfield line as normal. At the appropriate time, the umpire can stop the game. The substitute goalkeeper comes on, and obviously a field player must come off, still leaving the defense one player down. Our next segment is going to be on the 2013 rule changes. There were basically two main changes. The first one we're going to deal with is procedures for taking the free hit. In the past, the ball had to have 2 touches before any other action could happen. Now the ball may be lifted immediately on the free hit. This was instituted to prevent the defense from rushing in and creating a dangerous situation as the ball was being lifted. Let's make sure that we are clear in our administration of this process. If there are any fakes by the attack to possibly lift the ball and the defense draws themselves in, that is a problem for the defense. The free hit officially is not taken until the ball moves, and the defense has the responsibility to stay a minimum of 5 meters away until the free hit has been officially taken. Our second main rule change is dealing with the method of scoring, or the own goal as it's being called. We want to make sure that in understanding this parameter of the game, that any time the ball is touched in the circle by the attack legally or off the body and stick of the defenders in a non-dangerous situation, and the ball goes, including the goalkeeper, if the ball goes in the goal, it is a goal for the attack. Let's go to the whiteboard. What we'd like to do is go over a few scenarios associated with the own goal. Let's take my nice big red hockey ball here. The attacker comes right across the 25-yard line and attempts to drive the ball in the circle. If the ball comes in and touches the stick or body of the defender and goes into the goal, that is a goal for the attack. If the player drives the ball into the circle, get out of the way. If the player drives the ball into the circle and the goalkeeper attempts to play it and touches the ball and the ball goes in the goal, it is a goal as well. The thing that I caution you about is the ball coming in at a certain height, which would create a dangerous situation in the circle. That needs to be blown as normal. Keep in mind that if a free hit is awarded right on the edge of the circle, all of the free hit parameters still apply. Meaning, the player cannot drive it into the circle hoping that it's going to touch someone and go in the goal. That is still a violation of the free hit rule. Okay? Also, that's from outside the circle. If at any time the attack plays the ball inside the circle. Anytime after that, as long as they've brought the ball in and it touches a defender or the goalkeeper and goes in the goal, it is a goal. Also, keep in mind that that same scenario from a ball struck anywhere on the field outside the 25, if it happens to hit a player of the defense and into the goal, it is a goal. Let's show a scenario of the ball coming out of the defense, and many times with the ball starting here, the players make an attempt to swing the ball around to get around the block up. Keep in mind that if the player swings the ball back, even though the ball went outside the field of play, as they attempt to swing it and it hits the stick or feet of a defender or comes back and touches the goalkeeper and goes in the goal, that is a goal for the attacking team. Just because the ball went out of the field of play does not change the parameters. The rule itself specifically says, just so that it's touched by someone in the circle, it is a goal. Okay, and one last scenario associated with the own goal. If a penalty corner is called and the defense is back and the ball is going to come out from the end line, if the ball does not leave the circle as the defense is coming out, and I know I'm short a player back there, and the attack shoots the ball and it touches a defender and goes in the cage, because the parameters of the penalty corner were not met, this is not a goal. But if the ball does come outside the circle and happens to get a hit from outside the circle and comes in and touches a defender and then goes in the goal, that is a goal. Okay, let's look at some new guidance that was put in the briefing. The actual rules have not changed, but it's guidance for the umpires as it applies to time expiring. If time expires just before an umpire would have made a decision, the umpire is permitted to make that decision, which is something that we've always had the ability to do. There were problems with decisions not being made because the horn sounded or time expired. So just as a goal would be awarded provided that the ball crossed the line prior to the expiration of time, then the umpire would blow their whistle even after the horn sounded, the goal would be awarded. When it comes to penalty corners or penalty strokes or personal penalties, had those situations happened while time was still in place, and just because of timing, the umpire may not have gotten their whistle to their mouth to make that decision or to show that decision, those decisions can still be made. If the umpire's decision was to attempt to play advantage and time expires during that process, which would be the same process that an umpire would do any other time during the game, then if time runs out, time runs out. You cannot go back and give the team a second bite of the cherry, so to speak, just because you were on a hold or attempting to play advantage. And again, if umpires have to talk about something, they can do that after time as well, provided that the decision to be made happened prior to the expiration of time. In this segment, we're going to talk about the setup of the free hit and the need for the defense to be 5 meters away. As you see the setup here, the umpire has allowed the ball to come out to, let's say, the about 17, 18 yards from the end line, with the defender lined up right on the 5-yard dotted circle, so technically she's about 21. So you have 3 to 4 meters there in the process. When this scenario occurs, the umpire should interrupt, let's say, early and manage this so that there is a full separation of the 5 yards. As you see the video run, what happens is the player starts and decides to drive it and can create a very dangerous situation in the center, and mainly because the white player was no more than 3 to 4 meters away in the process. So what we want umpires to do is get this early and move it back to the 16. Here's another scenario of the players being 5 yards away, all right, perfectly legal in this scenario, with the help of allowing the initial lift on a free hit. We're looking to prevent the player from crashing in and possibly creating a dangerous situation as the ball goes up. Our next segment is going to be on the overhead or aerial ball that lands into an open space. What we need to do is make sure that everyone understands that just because the ball lands into an open space, it does not negate the rule of responsibility for 5-meter exclusion zone on the end of the reception. As you can see here, initially there was no intended player. You had 2 players coming towards the ball, and the black player happens to get the ball ahead of the red player, but the red player did not give her the 5 meters required for her to control it and getting on the ground before converging on her. And the umpire rightfully awards it to the black team. So keep in mind that just because the ball hits the ground and bounces does not negate the rule for 5 meters. Here's one where it goes into an open space and you have 2 separate players running onto it at full speed. This is should be the same decision as the previous video. There is no intended player. You have 2 players of opposite teams associated with this. There was no obvious receiver, and the ball should be given to the blue team going out. The umpire allows this to play on, could have created a very dangerous situation. This should have been blown. Our next segment is going to deal with an intentionally raised ball off of the hit. As you can see in Rule 9.9, states quite clearly that players are not to intentionally raise the ball from a hit unless it's a shot at goal. Let's take a look at a video. As you'll see here, and most commonly where it does happen, is players come out of the defense to their left and attempt to use a reverse hit, which, as you can see, goes well over top of everyone and basically relieves the defense of any pressure. What we want to make sure that everyone is aware of is, with this action of the player doing this reverse hit and everything being, let's just say, non-dangerous, if she were to attempt that same skill inside the circle on the attack, let's say for a shot on goal, and we give her credit for putting this same type of shot into the roof of the net, very controlled and very non-dangerous, we have to also give her credit for knowing what she's doing here with the intent to raise the ball well over top of everyone. As you can see, if that ball was left on the ground, the blue team would have had a very good chance of playing that ball. She chose to put it up and overhead. This is a skill that is taught. Umpires are not picking this up and making the player play the ball down. This must be recognized early in the game and communicated to the player and the players that you have deemed that as intentional. That needs to create a behavior modification for that player so it doesn't happen again. And the umpires must be consistent with this throughout the match. They cannot let this go early in the match and then make this decision in the second half or late in the game. So be consistent, recognize exactly what it is a perfectly executed skill that is relieving pressure for the defense. What we have found is this is also happening on the opposite side of the field, on the forehand, where the players are actually doing a two-handed sweep, and they are literally turning their stick up on the sweep to allow the ball to have a trajectory of an arc. That is intentional as well. These players know when to keep it on the ground, and they know when they're trying to put it up. We are also finding that players are moving themselves out to the right and literally upright, coming down and almost chipping the ball, which was the intent of the rule being put in to prevent the long chip over top of everyone on the forehand side. So, umpires and coaches and players need to understand that it is still in the rules and needs to be recognized by the umpires, and it should be recognized consistently, that a hard hit is not allowed to be raised intentionally, unless it's a shot on goal. In this segment, we're going to talk about the initial shot on goal at a penalty corner. Here's one that is passed out to the left and driven, attempted on goal by number 13. And as you can see, the ball takes a trajectory, sort of a banana shot, that comes down relatively low and would have crossed the goal line at 18 inches. And as you can see, the second player on her team puts it into the net, and it does not go below the 18 inches and is a legal goal. Here's one where the initial shot is on goal, and as you can see, the trajectory appears to be quite high and not meeting the parameters of crossing the goal line at 18 inches. But what happens in this one is it does hit the goalkeeper's pad, glove, and in turn deflects down and does hit the board. But because of the fact that the initial shot would not have crossed the goal line at 18 inches, this one should have been blown and was blown as a free hit out to the defense. Our last segment is just to show some of the problems that have arisen throughout the year. Here's your typical example of a sideline on the table side where many people are impeding the game. What we are looking to have happen here is, we understand that there may not be 5 yards on some of these fields, but the inconvenience, if you want to call it that, associated with this should not be out here on the game or the umpire, who is down here in the yellow. It should be on the players back here. These players can be sitting down. These coaches can be back here. If you have to draw, or what we'd like you to do is draw an imaginary line that would come down right when you're in these scenarios, right from the end of where the scorer's table would be. That way, everyone can still see, the coaches can see, and the game does not get impeded. A quick turnaround here, and this umpire having to come up this sideline will impede the umpire's ability to make a proper decision, and has the danger of an umpire running into players on this side. We cannot depend on a coaching community or playing community to step out and step back as they see fit based on the umpire coming up the sideline. So if there's any inconvenience, let's put it back here. These players can sit down, and let's give this area to the umpires so that the umpires can give you the best game properly, best game that they can without being impeded by people on the sidelines. Thank you so much for your attention. We hope this information has been informative. If you have any questions, please use the USA Field Hockey website and the Ask the Umpire feature. I'd like to thank the coaches, umpires, and assigners for contributing to this information, and we wish you the best and a very successful rest of the season.